What's up, guys? That Really Gross Guy here. We are back, and I wanted to show you guys a little bit of a build thing that I got going on. I wanted to make videos where there are weapons or Warframes or weapons and certain mods and stuff that synergize very, very well with each other. And this is my Slowva Corinth build that I think is really, really good. Now, keep in mind, that does not necessarily mean that Slowva is the best as long as she's using this weapon, and that also doesn't mean that the Corinth is useless in the hands of another Warframe, because that is absolutely not true. The Corinth is a fantastic weapon. Mastery rank 10 is necessary and actually has some really good build requirements. So if you want to get your hands on this weapon, I highly suggest it. It is a great weapon. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how I utilize my Corinth on my Nova. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to throw a slew of enemies out there for us to deal with. Right now the enemies are at level 50. We will go up to enemies at level 100 so you guys can kind of get a good idea of what is going on here. And I'm going to show you guys how I personally use the weapon. Alright guys, so we have some enemies set up on the level at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to this side and show you the technique. So this Corinth weapon has a knockdown technique that allows you to knock down enemies, leave them a little bit vulnerable for finishers. Now, the one problem that I have with the Corinth at this moment is, number one, the explosive has to be 20 meters away for the explosion to actually work. So you'll see those heavy gunners, I have to be way over there in order for the explosive to go off. If you guys are not familiar, if you shoot an enemy too close with the alternate fire, the explosion doesn't happen, and they just take impact damage. So it's really not viable in a lot of certain circumstances. There are times where enemies are in hallways. There are times where enemies are too close. They're maybe melee units, and you can't utilize your alternate fire. So, what I prefer to do is, as a Slowva, what I prefer to do is get up close to whatever enemies you want to take out. I'm actually going to group these guys up to show you how well this can be utilized. But for instance, I'll put a Slowva, molecular prime out. You get these knockdowns on these enemies, and look how much time you have to set up your finishers, to do your attacks, whatever you want to do on these enemies. You get a good build, you get a lot of power strength into your molecular prime, and these guys are going to suffer because of it. Now, if you do have a strong finisher weapon, currently my build is not up to standard, so the limitations are based on the fact that my weapons are not, 3-4 formas or whatever with incredible damage outputs, but you can see just how useful this can be. The finishers are there. You can make those finishers happen if you want. The other benefit that I can see with this setup, I'll get a whole new group of enemies out here, is the fact that, number one, this weapon is very powerful, and the molecular prime itself, the fact that enemies will die, they will explode, and they will cause damage to nearby enemies on this weapon is fantastic. So, we're going to get these guys kind of rounded up real quick. It seemed like they were pretty grouped up over there. So let's set these guys up. This is just to simulate like a real, something most people might struggle with, or most builds might struggle with, is a big group of enemies coming at you like this. So here we go, setting yourself up, getting these knockdowns. Level 50 enemies, they can go down with that shot. Let's say they don't go down. Let's say we have enemies level 100, which is what I'm going to simulate up next. Let's say we have enemies at the level 100 level, so we'll go into settings, we'll go to enemies level 100, and let's simulate that up. Let's kill these guys, simulate up. Level 100s. So these guys, for the most part, most people, most scenarios, would struggle with this type of combat. Now, there are plenty of weapons out there that can handle this with certain builds, certain setups, but I wanted to show you guys the synergy that these two have, and the fact that I can do most of this with low level, well, not low level, but non-formed weapons. You see all that? Look at this. Easy knockdowns, and just very easy picking these guys off. The fact that they damage each other because of molecular prime is just fantastic. And the fact that they're slow, I can still get a second burst in there. Still get all this time to kill these guys. Here we go. Picking up these guys, getting these bombards to fall, getting them to drop. Like I said, the limitations of my weapons, I'll show you the build in a moment. Now, like I said, these are not endgame builds. These builds are not set up for, you know, 100 minutes in a T4 survival. These are set up pretty much as a non-formed maxed out build. So your mileage may vary if you have some, you know, maxed out mods. Let me get another molecular prime on here, so you'll see once again just the ease of knocking these guys down and then finishing them off. You can see there are limitations to the weapon itself. The fact that the blast has to be 20 meters away is always a struggle. It's something you just have to deal with the weapon unless they patch that out. Personally, I prefer if the weapon would explode the moment it hits something. Even if it has that 20-meter range, I still would like it to be able to explode if I direct impact. Like you see here, it's not doing the exploding animation, which is what bothers me about this weapon. But I do know that there are people out there utilizing the Corinth with Harrow, and the fact that he can create incredible crit damage, crit chance type builds makes the Corinth phenomenal. If you would like to see that specific setup with the Corinth, please let me know in the comments below. If you have any other good weapons that synergize with other Warframes, you can let me know about that as well. Or maybe a weapon that is just underappreciated, and with a very certain mod setup, you know of a way to make that mod incredibly good. Now, granted, like I said, I did have invincibility on, but you saw how it was very easy for me to control what the enemies were doing. Gave me a lot of time to react, gave me a lot of time to take these enemies out. Like I said, this would be more viable with a better setup, but if you want to see here, these are the upgrades that I currently have on my Corinth, and as you can see, a lot of room for, you know, better, you know, stronger mods. I kept Blaze on here because of damage. I wanted to utilize the blast as much as I could for the secondary fire. That's not necessary. You will proc a blast with this setup no matter what, as long as you're using that alt fire. So if you choose to take out Blaze and Chilling Reload, you can do that to maximize your damage output. However, I like to have these on my build because I like to better my reload time, because the reload is not phenomenal on this weapon, and the fact that Blaze also has a 60% damage increase was something that I enjoyed. I threw on Accelerated Blast for fire rate. Puncture is, you know, secondary, but the fire rate was something that I wanted, and at the same time, reload speed with Seeking Fury is also a good idea, and you can get a little bit of that punch through with Seeking Fury. Like I said, you can use other mods on here. Let me know in the comments if there are some things you would switch out. But like I said, if you max this thing out, you put some formas into it, you use a Slowva build, this thing can be absolutely detrimental to the enemy. So, like I said, thank you guys, you know, for watching. If there's anything you guys want me to try out, or any builds you think would be really cool, any synergy type builds you think would be really cool to check out, let me know. But I hope to see you guys in another episode, and until next time, blow!